Okay, we'll get started with the pre-meeting, and we're actually going to move the order a little bit, so we'll start off with the baseball club. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, good evening. We have the question in front of you this evening relating to the possibility of seeing whether or not council would like to consider proposals with regard to the management and oversight, if you will, of Legion Field, Lansing Field, and Tanny. As you know, we've been in the management of those two facilities now directly for this past year, and it's come to our attention that there may be an interest from some of our user groups to have a shot at offering you a proposal to consider for the operation and management of those fields. I would suggest that there's probably more than one entity that would have that interest, and as a matter of fact, we have them both here tonight to talk about that if you would like, offer those insights if you would like to hear them. But fundamentally, the question is whether or not you have the interest, the tolerance to consider a proposal process, much like an RFP that we've gone through before as a team. If I could defer a second of time to Ms. Lopez to kind of give you a real brief view on how it's been going for us as operators and managers of those fields. And then if you'd like to take comment from the entities to gain some insight, we would be happy to take your direction thereafter.
Okay, Ms. Lopez.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. So you saw me probably about 6 weeks ago here presenting on what our experience was over the 2021 summer season with regard to operating Mike Lansing and Tanny Fields for the first time in decades, really. The city took over that operation. And so what I was happy to report at that time is that we were able to significantly reduce our subsidy at those two facilities. Respectively, at Mike Lansing, we were able to take the subsidy from just over 98%, which we had experienced between 2018 and 2020, to approximately 46% in 2021. And then at Tanny, we had actually a little bit even better success rate, taking that subsidy down, to about 16.5%. So that was the report given to you in late October of 2012, and then of course early in November, city manager and I were approached by Casper Baseball Club regarding their interest in establishing another partnership, and so that's where we're at. I'm happy to entertain any questions that you have about our experience managing those facilities this summer.
Councilman Nell.
My only question would be, the future projections are to get the subsidies all the way down to 8%, because I read the packet today. My question is, if we were to sublet this to one of those clubs, would we still be able to realize that type of subsidy, I guess, would be my question.
Mayor, Council, thank you for that question, and I think it's probably is achievable depending on how we structure any kind of agreement or partnership that we enter into. I think the city manager and I were very candid with the group that came to visit with us that we are in a position where we're trying to reduce subsidy at our athletic facilities, and we likely would not entertain a proposal that left us in a subsidy position over time. And so I think that there are many alternative structures that we could entertain with the number of the user groups that we have at all of our facilities, really, in order to continue to strengthen and grow programs, but still reduce the city's subsidy at those facilities.
Councilman Gamaros.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Zulima. Two-part question. The previous operator of the fields was Casper Baseball Club, is that correct? No. Carter shaking his head.
Previously, it was with Legion Baseball, which is related to Casper Baseball Club, but not exactly the same.
Okay. And so as you said, 6 weeks ago, end of October, when we had been presented this, we got information dating back to 2018. Are you able to tell us, before 2018, was that information pretty comparable those previous years? Was there anything significantly different about operations from year 2000 to 2018? I mean, the past 3 years of data, how useful is it for us to project backwards, kind of? I'm looking for historical context of operation of the fields. Thank you.
Mayor, council member, thank you. So I would suspect that at least the 5-year history is pretty close. We maintained similar maintenance on the fields while the users enjoyed, a set rate structure that they paid per player and a $1 lease for the facility. So I would say certainly that happened for a good 5, maybe even more years. There were amendments to the original agreement with Legion over time, over that 20-year period that they held the lease. So we're happy to look back and get hard numbers for you if you'd like to see that. But I would suspect that at least for a 5-year history, it was pretty similar.
That's fine for me. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. City manager, well, is it, everybody, would you like to hear from the 2 user groups that are here tonight? Okay.
I would, with keeping in mind, we know what happened in the past, so when they do give their presentation, I guess I'd like to know how they plan on working with the other groups as well. If they could make that part of their presentation, so we have a better idea how this could be different.
Okay. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If indeed council would like to hear or evaluate data more in depth as it relates to this possibility, it is certainly within your authority, if you will, to defer further discussion of this item to another work session if, you're not prepared to say yay or nay tonight. So please be aware of that. And without a doubt, I would suggest that maybe Casper Baseball Club and the Horseheads would both probably like to address at least a couple things with you tonight.
So more information gathering tonight, and if we need another work session to talk about it, we could if we decide to go that
Absolutely.
route. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yep. Okay, so I guess either group, whoever wants to approach the lectern first. And if you could, try and keep it, 5 minutes or less, if we could.
Hi, my name is Scott Brownell, and I'm a board member of the Casper Baseball Club. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. Thank you guys for the opportunity to visit about Casper Baseball and the future of Casper Baseball using the city facilities. I've just recently joined the board here about a year ago, but probably one piece of information that's important to know, as we talked a little bit about the historical use of the facility, is over that last 5-year period, we really kind of had baseball for high school age kids operating with a club team with Casper Crush, and then post-2 American Legion, which is who the city had dealt with. And one of the things that we've tried to do, we've put the Casper Baseball Club together, formulated a new board, and we're bringing Casper Crush and Casper Baseball Club together for one program for Casper's youth, which is how it used to be back when I played baseball several centuries ago, 30 years ago. But Casper's has a rich and deep history in baseball, and so I think it's important to the city, and I think it's important to our youth to give them the opportunities to compete and to have a program that's competitive with other programs in the state. And in order for us to do that, we need to have some stability with the facilities that we use. And as we're trying to build this program for our kids, we want to have a little more longevity and durability with a lease and use agreement, however that might look. So our goal really tonight is to approach you and with the message that we want to work together. We want things to be different. We want it to be more beneficial to the city, but we certainly want it to be more beneficial to our kids and our community. And what we'd really like to do is have some kind of an agreement that would be maybe between 5 and 10 years with some kind of opportunity for either party to terminate the agreement if things aren't moving per expectation or per the agreement. Our goal as the new board is to be able to go out and get stakeholders for the program, to raise money, to even put some capital improvements in the fields. And in order to do that, we need an arrangement that's has a little more length than the current year-to-year scenario that we're dealing with. So just a little bit of background and kind of more or less just an opportunity to provide a proposal, as our city manager had mentioned. So I don't know, does anybody have any other questions or comments?
Any questions from anybody? Councilman Gamros.
Thank you. And thank you, Scott, for speaking with us this evening. I guess my question is, have you seen, 6 weeks ago when we had this discussion, did you have an opportunity to look at the new fee schedule and kind of how the city's operating the facility?
I have not.
Oh, okay.
I have not, Councilman Gamroth.
I guess I'm still a little lost myself on how exactly this this works as far as who's we've been operating it for the past year, and so it seems like we're getting good numbers. Councilman Nell brought up that we're reducing the subsidy. Zulima spoke to it earlier, and so is the goal of your club? Are we seeking to replace how the city has structured it over the past year? If we were to put it up for proposal, would we be seeking to replace that? Or would we be seeking partnership with an agency such as yours to continue what we've been, how we've been handling it the past year? Does that make any sense? Carter, you're good at translating my tangents.
I hope I don't let you down, Councilman. Mr. Mayor, Councilman, I think the idea would be that if indeed a partnership is entertained between the city and an operator, whomever that operator might be, that indeed we wouldn't want to lose progress with regard to what we've gained by being the operator and owner of the facilities in question. And so I think there is a lot of ways that we could structure an agreement, should we go down this road, that would include the primary operating partner as well as other user groups who want to participate in the facilities as well. So my hope would be, and maybe it's too Pollyanna to consider it this way, but my hope would be that, as Zulima mentioned, we wouldn't lose ground on the subsidy makeup that we've enjoyed so far, nor would we want to lose ground on the ways in which users can have access to the facilities, because there will be more than one user group, right? As well as gain the benefits that an operator manager could bring to the table, like Scott mentioned, in terms of potential capital improvements. And that would be, I would hope, with whomever becomes the operator manager of the facilities in question.
Okay.
Thank you. I think I have a better idea now of where I was going with the first question. And so the reason I had asked you, Mr. Brownell, if you had seen how we have the fees currently structured and stuff, is I was trying to get an idea of, it sounds like there's some interest on the part of the Horseheads and on part of the Casper Baseball Club to become the operator for those fields. And I was wondering what your thoughts are on the current fee schedule and management plan that the city has been operating under, and what would be the benefit of, say, your organization becoming the operator? Is it because for you and your board and the donors and stuff to take to do capital improvements, you would want the security of a longer term contract for operation, the year to year, your donors and stuff? You're shaking your head, so I think you're following me, but I was just trying to get a better indication of what the goals of the operators would be and what maybe their thoughts or concerns are about the current structure that the city's operating under. Thank you.
I mean, the main reason is, when we're trying to help the kids by raising money, some part of the fees are collected by the kids and their families themselves, but also there's people in our community, as you all well know, that are very, very philanthropic and very giving, and I think that would be very much in support of, a program that fosters, you know, these high school age kids, that brings us together instead of like we were before, having two different programs. So for us, going out and making presentations and visiting with people for money that might potentially be used for capital improvements or otherwise, I think our position will be much stronger to help the growth of the program if we have a longer term agreement. So, and for this evening, I think our main point of interest was just to see that you guys as council members would be open to a proposal where we can provide more detail with some of the factors such as the pricing schedule and et cetera. So.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, council.
And the horse heads. Yep, yep. And Mr., I guess before you can go ahead and come on up. Mr. City Manager, just, I guess to clarify, we're just getting information here tonight. So I think that if we collectively think that we need to have further discussion on this, we need to take it to a work session because it is pre-meeting and so we only have a certain amount of time. So we'll listen to what you have to say and then we can make a determination from there, so.
Mr. Mayor and Council, my name is Chuck Heeman. My wife and I own the Casper Horseheads. The first thing I really want to get out there is that the last year with the arrangement that we had with the city, we're very happy with that. It worked out very well for us. It actually allowed us to survive financially. I'm not going to get into the past, as Councilman Nell said, that there's no use in rehashing that. But moving to the structure that we have allowed us to remain in Casper and do what we do and look towards the future with a more positive eye. I can tell you that we, in August, Mr. Hill and us and 3 members of city staff met at the recreation center, and we agreed to continue with the fee structure that we had in place. They had placed a 3-year plan in front of us where the subsidies were going to reduce, and it was good to hear that the city is seeing benefit off that. We all agreed to continue that, so I'm a little confused as to why we're here today, but we are. We obviously want to stay in Casper. You know, as far as having the operating contract for the ballpark itself, you know, that's really up to the city to decide if that's going to be an option. It's the city's ballpark. We respect any decision that's made and we'll participate in any process that's put out there. But really, I can tell you that we're very happy with what happened this year. We met some challenges. As most of you know, the condition of the ballpark for the summer, it was a little rough. We got through it. We were second in our league in attendance. We put on a really fantastic all-star event for 2 years that had a great turnout, really brought in a lot of tourism dollars, hotel rooms, restaurants, things like that. So, you know, what we came here to do, we were very much more able to do this year than in previous years. So the arrangement that we have with the city with the 3-year rental increasing fee plan, we're very happy with. We established a really good relationship with Phil Moya and Paul Zawada and the city staff and Gary, and as far as being able to get things done. We put, you know, not a lot, but we put some money in the ballpark ourselves this year to get it looking good for the All-Star event. Really, we're just, again, the overall theme is we're happy the way it is. If there's a process where we are looking at an RFP procedure, we'll be happy to participate in that. We put one in last year. We'd be happy to do it again. But we're very happy with the way things turned out. It sounds like the city staff was as well. It's kind of accomplishing their goals as well. So with that, if there are any questions of me, I'll be glad to answer them as best I can.
Councilman Neal.
Do you, in the event that Casper Baseball Club was to take it over, do you find that to be detrimental to your operation in any way?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Nell, it really depends on the terms. We're open to looking at anything, really. Everybody's familiar with the terms as they were previously. I don't see anybody going back to that. If it went back to that, that would be rough. But we're very open to looking at terms. I can't say whether it's going to be detrimental or not without knowing what those terms are.
Well, I can certainly tell you, I don't think it'll ever go back to the way it was.
That'd be great. We plan on being here as long as people want us here. So, yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
For your time, really appreciate it.
Thank you. So are we good in moving this, do you want this to go to a work session, have a discussion on it?
I think so, until we discuss contracts and.
Okay. All right, could we get that on a work session, Mr. City Manager?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We'll go back to the budget calendar, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This will be the first budget calendar disbursement that we've done with the sitting council. And basically what that is it's the plan, if you will, the timeline that we need to follow in terms of passing a budget in the statutorily required time frame that they stipulate. And as you know, that is the second business meeting in June. And so we essentially work backward from that time frame with regard to the approvals we need from you, the work sessions we need to have with you, some of the decisions we need you to make along the way. And so you'll see a lot of those meetings coming to pass. Actually, one of those meetings will start the next work session that we have, and we'll go from there. Frankly, the budget process doesn't take long to need to be started again. So in any case, we have the calendar ready to give to you tonight. We really don't need a formal direction, if you will, but rather you be well informed as to what stops we need to make along the way. And if you have questions, we'd be happy to entertain those. And so if I could have, Jill, do you have those? And yeah, come on up, if that's okay, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Thank you.
I didn't really prepare anything for this evening, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have on the calendar.
Anybody have any questions? Councilman Gamroth?
Other than just a reminder of where the calendar's at, I don't remember seeing that.
Page 3 in your packet.
It should have been in the packet.
Oh, I see. Thank you.
Councilwoman Ingebretson.
So is the staffing that you're looking at, is that filling in FY '22 or just immediately? So when we're looking at staffing issues and what we're trying to fill in positions, when are we looking at filling in these positions?
Mr. Mayor, Madam Councilwoman, the idea is that if there are staffing requests that we need to make as a part of the budget process, that would be an implication for the new budget. Therefore, those positions would not be available to be filled until July 1, which would be the start of the new year, new fiscal year.
Anybody else? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to Health Department's use of the source gas property, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The Health Department approached staff recently and have asked that given the significant traffic increase that they've seen at their current facility, which you are all familiar with and you'll see here on the exhibit here in a second, they would like some help with regard to siphoning off some of that traffic into a temporary facility across the street. That particular property across the street is what we call the source gas property that the city owns and bought, of course, from Source Gas some years ago. And they've got a plan, if you will, as it relates to conducting services across the street that would have the benefit and outcome of reducing a lot of the foot traffic that they're having in their decaying building that they're in right now. And so I didn't want to, authorize that use and start looking at an agreement without council understanding what's taking place, without council understanding that indeed this is a temporary application with regard to the rendering that you see in front of you, so that your blessing could be incurred and they could get the green light that they need to move forward and all the arrangements necessary to make that happen. So if I could defer a little time to the Health Department to walk us through some of this, I would certainly appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for taking time. This is a difficult ask that has come out of, we're working with the county to look at new building arrangements and things like that. So we've been working with an architecture firm that has also looked at our existing setup and has determined that this would help offload some of the pressure that is existing within the building. In March, we anticipate 350 extra cars down there with the opening of the state building. So basically, it's a safety factor for not congesting Spruce Street or Midwest Street to allow traffic to flow, because there are times that we do block both of those. Our parking lot, we accommodated the loss of a couple spaces to the redevelopment of Midwest Street. And so people often get trapped in the parking lot and are not able to get out for one reason or another. We are not able to get garbage, sharps container, recyclables, anything like that, because often the alley is congested. So the only thing that I am asking you for is the use of the land. We would pay for everything else that would go along with that, acquiring just energy, electricity to support trailers for testing an office space, as well as additional temperature-controlled buildings, and then there's also a wind wall to accommodate for the amount of wind that is blowing across that property. So, do you have questions in regards to that?
Vice Mayor Pacheco.
Thanks for coming down here, Anna. I appreciate it. I don't have a question. I'm 100% behind this. I think this is needed. It's critical. I was there Friday, getting my son his third shot. So we were down there, and it was pretty bad. And I saw Anna when we were down there, and it was pretty bad. And as far as when I say bad, I mean people were outside waiting, and I think that's just going to continue as more parents get their kids vaccinated and other people get vaccinated as they continue to do so. So it makes sense to me. They're paying for it. It's just the use of the property. So I'm 100% encouraging the council to support this. So thank you.
Councilman now. Sorry, Jeff.
This would be more for the city manager. My only concern would be that you said this is temporary. Will there be a clause in whatever we're doing to make sure that in the event that we needed that property for something down the road, that we're not going to have any issues?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, as I understand it, we're talking maybe 18 months for the duration of this. And Councilman, no, that would absolutely be what I would advocate for as it relates to this agreement. And so I don't think that's something they would disagree with.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Council, Eric Nelson, County Attorney. I've been working with Anna on this, and it certainly would be temporary. And so I'm happy to take a first stab at a draft on an agreement. It would obviously be limited duration. It would have some outs if the city needed the property for something. There'd be probably a notification provision, so it could be terminated. But everything else would be, all costs would be incurred by the health department, and the county is, actively looking at long-term solutions. So certainly, we're respective of those concerns, and would certainly draft an agreement to that effect.
In that event, as a follow-up, I'm all for it.
Councilwoman McQuitt. Oh, no. You good? Okay. All right. Councilman Gamera.
Just real quick, no questions, Anna, but to reiterate kind of what the Vice Mayor said, I've worked in the health department in the fairly recent past, and I can't imagine how you guys have been making it work with vaccination and testing and stuff. It's not a great building to be in. So I appreciate you guys doing what you can with the space provided, and I hope we can help help ease the burden in that sense. Thank you.
One more thing, if I can.
Go ahead.
We actually saw 169 people on Friday, and I'm pretty sure 90% of those were between 4 and 5 o'clock. There was not a staff member that was not engaged in this activity. The proximity allows us to flex up or flex down depending on the need, but it definitely, we now will be adding treatment into this process as well, so it continues on, and the payment for all of this continues through the end of what we're funded for. So there wouldn't be any ask for that.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for doing what you're doing. So you need thumbs up? Everybody good with that? Okay. Municipal court staffing, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Many of you are aware that we have needs with respect to supporting court from two fronts. One would be a very consistent bailiff function, as well as improvements as it relates to general security and some of the things that we could do there to improve overall court security. Our new manager of the court, Ms. Hatfield, has suggested a partnership by which the police department has agreed that would include the court providing a portion of funding for a person out of the police department, a police officer, that would serve as the regular bailiff, if you will, regular security for the court, assisted by a part-time bailiff person as well, that court would provide, not necessarily require out of the police department. The implication of this arrangement would be that indeed, as we, buy that assistance from the police department, there certainly is the reality of pulling a person off the line, so to speak, that I don't want to leave open. In other words, a gap that this officer would otherwise be fulfilling. So the implication to this partnership that I think is very innovative and important to do is that, hearkening back to Councilwoman Ingebrigtsen's question, I will likely be coming back to you in the spring time frame saying, hey, I'd like to bring on an additional police officer to backfill the time that would be left vacant, so to speak, by pulling an officer into the court system to help on a very regular basis. The reason you're hearing this now is because we really need to make some changes now in order to better support the court, as well as the hearings and the trials that go on and everything else now, instead of waiting until the new fiscal year to move forward with this innovation. Ms. Hatfield indicates to me that if we were to move forward now, that we do have some savings in the budget with regard to personnel. We have not hired or otherwise contracted to assist in this regard. And so therefore, funding for the current fiscal year is in place to make this happen. But I want you to understand that indeed, I would want to come forward and petition your support for the new fiscal year of backfilling that space with a regular full-time officer that, has the effect essentially of not really increasing our FTE, but it does increase our FTE, as it were, because we are, needing more assistance from the department than we normally require. And so with that, Mr. Mayor, I do have Nicole here tonight to answer any more in-depth questions that you might have, but that fundamentally is the idea that effectively has a two-stage question for you to consider.
Okay, does anybody have any questions, Ms. Hatfield?
Actually, my question would be for the city manager. What is the staffing level right now? Are we fully staffed with sworn officers in the police department?
I can answer that.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, we are not fully staffed in PD. The chief is making great strides in that regard and certainly is funded to staff if he can get there for this fiscal year. But right now we do not have the amount of officers that we are authorized for, although the budgeting is in place for that.
I I knew the chief had been working very hard down those lines, and I just wasn't sure exactly where we stood. So if we did implement this right now, we would be taking an officer off the street.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, we would be taking an officer off the street for at least part of that officer's day, so to speak. And so, yeah, there certainly is that concern, and we certainly do want to backfill that space that officer would be, vacating, so to speak.
I guess maybe to take that question a step further, and the chief's probably gonna answer this, but do you have people that are getting ready to come out of the program so that it would not have such an impact to it?
Mayor, council, city manager, today we have 101 sworn police officers. Some of those officers obviously are in training. They've not completed their training, so they're not really counting for us. But right now we are providing bailiff services for the municipal court, and that is taking away the officers that should normally be working on the street. Those duties have fallen to the traffic unit, and traffic safety is very important to the community. It's important to this council, and their absence as we're providing those services to the court is making a demonstrable difference in the amount of enforcement that we're doing currently. So the police department looks forward to kind of relieving a little bit of this. I stepped forward to answer the question of the councilman because I think it's important to note that currently we have those openings we're funded much more than the 101 police officers. But we currently have 10 very viable candidates that are in the final stages of the background process, and we have 2 in addition to that have already completed the process, and they will be coming on duty in January. So although it's not perfect, the police department believes that we can fulfill these responsibilities. It will be good for us to not remove our traffic officers off the street to fulfill these duties, and so we are in support of this.
Councilwoman Ingebretson.
Thank you.
I see you over there.
Need flags. I actually have a couple of questions. What is our split with the municipal court? I know that we share with the county. And so doesn't the county also support municipal court, or is it just the city?
Mr. Manager.
Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman, that's a great question. We do not receive bailiff support from the sheriff's office, if that's what you mean.
That's exactly what I mean.
Okay, yeah, they support their courts, if you will, and rightly so. So we do look to the police department for help, particularly in the absence of a regular full-time bailiff.
Anybody else have questions?
Mr. Mayor, one point that I didn't remember myself, how many authorized positions do you have?
Mayor, council, city manager, technically speaking, the police department is funded for 107 positions. However, in this current fiscal year, the city manager and the police department presented a budget that temporarily unfunded for the first 6 months of the fiscal year some of those positions, with the understanding we weren't going to be able to hire them and get them on the streets prior to that. So if city council restores the funding on at a next budget adjustment for those positions, it would be 107 positions.
Mr. Mayor, and I think we budgeted for that money to be there for the last 6 months. So I don't know that we need another action from you to make that happen.
Okay. Councilman now.
Thanks. Chief, does the bailiff have to be a sworn peace officer?
Mayor, councilman, council, no, they do not have to be. However, given today's society and some of the expectations of protecting our employees, it is recommended that an armed person perform those bailiff duties. Given the constraints that we have on the certifications of an armed employee and the liability that comes with that, it is probably best that it be a sworn employee.
I assume so, and the reason I ask is if we're having such a difficulty in and just keeping the police department staffed, what's the real opportunity to hire someone to shuffle into that position?
Mayor, Council, excellent questions. The Casper Police Department is currently enjoying a reputation of professionalism that is, people are responding to our recruitments. There's every likelihood that we're going to be fully staffed and able to fill that position and all of our positions. We're keeping our fingers crossed, trying not to count those chickens because they're not hatched yet, but the prospects look pretty good for me to approach the city manager with the very real possibility of a hiring list of extremely qualified candidates.
Thank you, Chief. Mrs. Hatfield, did you have something you wanted to add?
Mayor, council members, hi. I don't have necessarily anything more to add than the chief. I do believe that it's imperative that our bailiff is a police officer. Like was mentioned, the sheriff's department does support the circuit and the district courts in every county in our state. It is realized that having a police officer in the court with us at the jail when we do arraignments, it is imperative for them to be able to do the services that the court requires, that the citizens require, that other people in the court require. We need security. It makes sense that we have somebody in there that can detain, that can arrest, that can use of force if needed. There have been incidences just since I've been here where we have needed court security. It is a thing that is important to us. Lieutenant Dabney did do a court security assessment for our court, maybe at the end of August, beginning of September. He recommended that the court have 3 part-time bailiff positions. Historically, bailiffs are administrative only. This is more of a court security officer. With his recommendation of 3 part-time bailiffs, this agreement with the police department would fulfill one of those positions.
Okay. Councilman Nell.
Just one comment. I certainly wasn't, and I apologize if I misled you, thinking that we should have not a certified peace officer in the courtroom. I was more leading the chief down the road to
Correct.
finding out, we're short-staffed now, how hard will it be to find another one? So that's where I was headed with that, just so you know.
And right now I do have a part-time bailiff. He has over 300 hours of certification training. He was prior police. His certification just expired, and I'm having issues getting him recertified because he does not work for law enforcement. I can't support him or sponsor him as a court to get recertified. So that is another question that we're trying to figure out the answer to as well. He's a great employee. He's part-time. Without him being certified, he can't so much as even go to the jail to help for video arraignments. So that's what we're looking at next, is getting my current part-time bailiff recertified, and if we even can do that.
Okay. Vice Mayor Pacheco.
It's going to take 2 seconds because we're 6:03 and we're getting ready to start our regular meeting. But my only thought is that I know we have some staffing shortages within the police department, but the chief, I always kind of lean on that. If the chief said he's good with it, he says that we can do it, and he's supporting it, I'm for it too, and I think it's needed and necessary.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, you need any direction on that, or
Mr. Mayor, if you're comfortable with us moving forward, we're happy to do so.
everybody good? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Agenda review, Mr. City Manager?
Mr. Mayor, the only thing I was going to mention is that the purchase of that 3rd reserve fire unit is not going to be able to happen after all, and so you will not need that approval on your agenda this evening.
Okay. All right, if we're good, we'll just get right into the meeting then. So before we begin this evening, I'd like to remind everyone to silence their cell phones at this time. And I now call the December 7th, 2021 regular council meeting to order. The chair would entertain a motion to, by minute action, excuse the absence of Councilmember Pollock and Councilman Johnson.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor Pacheco, second by Councilman Cathy. Please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
Council meetings are also televised and can be viewed on cable channel 192. Could I get, so we have some Boy Scouts, is that correct? Could I have you come up and help lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
We're having shoe difficulty.
I'm sorry for holding this up.
You're okay. You're just fine. Thanks, Jason.
All right, I am pleased to announce that Reef Public Parking, who manages downtown parking garage for the city of Casper, has chosen to donate half of their proceeds from the fees collected during this year's Christmas parade to a local charity. $106.81 will be donated to Meals on Wheels to help them in providing our seniors with a warm, nutritious meal this holiday season. The city of Casper thanks Reef Public Parking for helping to keep spirits bright and meals on the table in our community. The chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the minutes of the November 16th, 2021 regular council meeting as published in the Casper Star Tribune on November 24th, 2021.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Engbretson, second by Councilman Gamroth. Any amendments? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With the abstention of Mayor Field noted, motion passed.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the December 7th, 2021 bills and claims as audited by City Manager Napier.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Engbretson, second by Councilman Gamroth. Any abstentions or nay votes? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
Now is the time we invite anyone in the audience who wishes to speak with the council to come forward. As stated on the first page of the agenda, we ask the following. Please state your name and address. Direct all questions, comments to the mayor and only the mayor. No personal attacks on staff or council will be tolerated. Council will not respond to personnel matters. These will be referred to our city manager. Questions posed by speakers may or may not be responded to by council members. Presentations are limited to 5 minutes, and the duplication of speakers will not be allowed, nor will time extensions be permitted. Please note that public hearings and ordinances each have their own comment period, so please hold your comments on those items until we have reached them. Is there anyone that would like to approach or talk to council? Okay, please read the consent agenda titles.
Establishing December 21st, 2021, as consideration for the following 4 items. Item 6A1A, may I borrow your agenda? Partial vacation plat and parkland zone change for North Platte River Park Number 2 subdivision. 6A1B, vacation replat and subdivision agreement and zone change for the Eagle Valley addition. Item 6A1C, the retail, rates for retail and wholesale water and sewer service and for residential and commercial solid waste collection and disposal at the Casper Solid Waste Facility. Item 6A1D, the transfer of retail liquor license number 26, and establishing February 15th, 2022 as a public hearing date for the consideration of the annual renewal of all City of Casper liquor licenses.
The chair would entertain a motion to, by minute action, establish the public hearing dates just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Cathy, second by Councilman Gamroth. Any abstention or nay votes? Please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
All members voting aye, motion passed.
I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of the issuance of restaurant liquor license number 46 for Movie Palace Incorporated, doing business as Studio City Mesa Cinemas at 3150 Talon. Mr. City Attorney, do you have any exhibits?
Thank you, Mayor. We have 4 exhibits tonight. Exhibit number 1, correspondence from Fleur Trummel to J. Carter Napier, dated November 9, 2021. Exhibit number 2, affidavit of publication, is published in the Casper Star Tribune, dated November 23, 2021. Exhibit number 3, affidavit website publication, is published on the City of Casper website, dated November 10, 2021. And exhibit number 4, liquor license application, filed October 26, 2021. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, do you have a report?
Not a whole lot to add, Mr. Mayor, other than given some of the changes that we've seen in the legislature with respect to alcohol licenses and in particular restaurant service, if you will. The West Side theaters do appear to be eligible applicants with regard to a new restaurant liquor license. And accordingly, you have that to consider this evening as an extension of this type of service for the theaters on the West Side.
Okay. Council now listen to public comment. Public hearing comments are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in favor of the issuance of restaurant liquor license number 46 to please approach the lectern.
Good evening. My name is Andy Hauk. I reside at 170 Astor Street here in Casper. I'm a co-owner with Movie Palaces, and they operate the Studio City Mesa Theater. Wanted to stand tonight just to thank Council for the consideration of this restaurant liquor license, and also I'm here to entertain any questions Council might have.
Okay. Any questions? Councilman, no.
I'm going to give you the platform to make it very clear, as the public's weighed in on us heavily, and I've spoken with Mr. Hosey. There's a limit on what they could purchase. Why don't you just go ahead and explain to the council, since it's your application, so that they have a better understanding that they're not going to take their kids in amongst a bunch of drunks to watch a movie.
Sure. So our plan is to serve pre-packaged and single-service alcohol products, no mixed drinks, no bartenders. This will be beer and wine service. Our customers must purchase a food item in order to be eligible to purchase an alcohol beverage. The dispensing area is also considered to be, operated by 18-year-olds, serving them that are all will be tips trained. We've studied this for a couple years now, and majority of the theaters across the country actually offer beer or wine or liquor service. One of the things that we will restrict the sale by 2 alcoholic beverages to an individual showing a proper ID, and we do have a age verification device that once scanned into the system will notify the POS and the operator or the server that the 2-drink minimum has been reached for that particular customer. Also, to keep minds at ease, you know, movie theaters have to have a premium on our concession beverages and food items, and that would be no different with the alcohol. So we're not trying to operate our venue as a beer or as a bar or a pub. Our venue is an entertainment venue, so much as other venues in town, restaurants and such. And so we feel that it is not in the best interest for a patron to come up to overconsume at a movie theater. They'll be limited to 2 beverages, and obviously the high premium of cost that they would incur to get those alcoholic beverages.
Councilman Cathy.
If you don't mind my asking, have you set your pricing yet?
Yes, we have. It's anywhere from a 12 to 16 ounce beer would run around $8. And then a 6 ounce wine would run around the same. So we're looking at an average cost of $8.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thanks for your time.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of? All right, this time I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in opposition to the issuance of restaurant liquor license number 46 to please approach the lectern. All right, there being no others to speak for or against the issuance of restaurant liquor license number 46, and I now declare the public hearing closed. The chair would entertain a motion to, by minute action, authorize the issuance of restaurant liquor license number 46.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Nell, second by Councilwoman Quest. Discussion? Any amendments? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
Please read the consent resolutions by title only.
Item 8A1, authorizing the mayor to sign the Casper Historic Preservation Commission annual report. Item 8A2, authorizing an agreement with emergency medical physicians to provide medical direction for the Casper Fire EMS Department. Item 8A3, authorizing an agreement with HDR Engineering for water rights and supplies activities. Item 8A4, an agreement with Pope Construction for the Fire Station number 1 flooring project. Item 8A5, authorizing change order number 3 with Wayne Coleman Construction for the Industrial Avenue Drainage and Surfacing Improvements Project. Item 8A6, authorizing a final acceptance certificate with the Wyoming Department of Transportation for the Murad Park to Walmart Trail. Item 8A7, a contract with for professional services with WLC Engineering for the Darrington Addition Water Main Replacements Project. And item 8A8, authorizing amendment number 1 to the real estate purchase agreement with the Casper Housing Authority for the city-owned property on South Beverly Street.
The chair would entertain a motion to adopt the consent resolutions just read.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Ingebretson, second by Councilman Gamroth. Mr. City Manager, is there any items you'd like to comment on? Okay. Any abstention or nay votes?
I will abstain from 8A5 and 8A7.
Okay. Any other abstentions? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With the abstentions of Councilmember Nell noted, motion passed.
Staff has requested that the purchase of the fire EMS custom pumper be removed from the agenda. Please read the consent minute action titles.
Item 9A1, the sole source purchase of a front-end wheel loader from Wyoming Machinery Company. Item 9A3, authorizing the issuance of taxi cab license to Casper Cabs. Item 9A4, reappointing Robin Bromley, Jeff Bond, and Connie Hine to the Casper Historic Preservation Commission. And item 9A5, appointing Mary Beth Plochek, Joseph Hutchinson, and also reappointing Carol Johnson and Terry Wingerder to the Casper Planning and Zoning Commission.
Chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent minute action agenda items just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Nell, second by Councilwoman Engebretson. Any abstention or nay votes? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
At this time, we ask council members to bring forward relevant concerns or items of interest. Councilman Nell.
Thanks. A few things. I guess I want to see if we can get something on the agenda concerning the street area around the school where the Ace Hardware went in. As we all know, that's been we had a pretty good crowd that night. And a lot of the constituents have came to me and suggested that turn into a one-way situation coming off of CY, going by the school and down HY, and they would exit back out at right there on the other side of Rocky Mountain Sports. It would just create I went and looked at it, and it makes great sense for the safety for those children being dropped off and picked up. So I'd like to see that put possibly as an agenda or a work session item so that we could look into that further as a council. Wyoming basketball is 8-0. They play Arizona tomorrow, who's ranked number 11 in the country. So go Wyoming. It's nice to see us have some success down there. I was also going to ask as an agenda item if we could set up bi-monthly meetings with the council's employees. We were just asked to do evaluations, and one of them I've never even met, let alone was able to do an evaluation on her. So I was hoping we could get that put in a work session where we could discuss that. And I'm curious sometimes why we're hiring outside contractors, i.e. engineers, when we have them on staff. And so I was hoping we could put that in a work session item as well so that we can discuss that as a council as ways to save money for the city. That's all I have.
Are we good in adding those on, Mr. City Manager?
Mr. Mayor, I think as it relates to one of those items, council has the opportunity to call in any of your employees anytime to speak. And so whenever you're ready, we're happy to do that. But the other two items that are, I think, discussion worthy, if you will, and we'd be happy to prepare for that.
Okay. So good. All right, Councilman Cathy.
The only thing I've got is I've got a CPU advisory board meeting in the morning. It's 7 a.m.
Early. Councilwoman Quest.
Nothing for me tonight.
Okay. Councilwoman Engebretson.
I just brought my concern over to the chief, so other than that, I have nothing tonight.
Councilman Gamros.
Thank you, Mayor. Just two things. One, I wanted to recognize Connie Arnold. She just retired from the city of Casper. Wasn't able to make it to her retirement party last week, but I understand she served for 16 years for the city of Casper. So thank you, Connie, for all your hard work. Also, the Federal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act of Wyoming. So Wyoming's going to receive $63 million for drinking and wastewater projects, and so I don't know if that was going to be added to the agenda at some point, but I just want to make sure. I would like to have a discussion about if there's any potential for us to get some of these high priority projects funded through the use of those dollars. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Pacheco.
Thank you. Just one item, and with the city manager's permission, can I have Zulima come up really quick, if it's okay with you, Mr. City Manager? So I'm the liaison for the CCPD, and which the council for Casper's Council with People with Disabilities, and they did a calendar as a fundraiser, and so I'm going to put the council on the spot, and they're $5, and they're of service animals, and so I'm going to be buying one, and I encourage you for $5 if you wouldn't mind doing that. In front of all these people, so it'd be great. I'm just teasing, but I really would appreciate it if you did buy one for $5 in support. Would you just tell just a little snippet of what it is, Zulima, if you want to grab them?
This is what they look like. And there are pictures of Casper, local Casper, and Wyoming service animals. Admittedly, there are 2 stock photos purchased from Adobe to fill in some space, and then we did an education piece to just explain to people the difference between bona fide service animals that perform duties for people with disabilities, and then companion animals who, of course, give companionship and that kind of lovable service to the people that are lucky enough to have them. So both are represented, and the names of all of the local animals are listed below so that people can see that they live in our community.
And the only other thing I want to say about it is I think that if you don't, either you don't live with a disability, or you work with someone with a disability, or have a family member, you don't know or understand, I think, of some of those things. And so what CCPD has done, not only for me personally, but also to understand deeply, you know, that some people live with disabilities, and it's an awareness in our community that is needed. And so hopefully you'll be able to do that. And I will encourage, as the snow comes, shovel your walks, please. Not only for mail carriers, but shovel your walks for people you don't know who has disabilities. So I beg our Casper community, and if you can't, ask your neighbor to help shovel your walk. As a community, we can do that. So please, please, please. So Zulema, how do we want to do that? Do you want to have them give them their driver's license to you until they give you the $5? How do you want to do that?
I would entertain anything that the council is willing to give.
Okay.
Where do you purchase the calendars at?
So there are actually multiple ways. We do have the calendars available on our website to view, and then there's a phone number listed to call, or you can actually email the council to request a calendar and coordinate pickup. You can certainly catch any member of the Disability Council, and we will be distributing these to the membership at our next meeting, which is next Thursday. So any member of the Disability Council will have calendars available for sale. And certainly you're always welcome to visit with me, and I can provide one.
I'll take 2.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Zulema. That's all, Mayor.
That's it, huh? Okay. All right, this past week, the vice mayor and myself and the city manager met with mayors and administrators from the select cities, 6 of them. And it was actually, it's going to be a reoccurring meeting that we're having, and it was eye-opening. They have the same problems we have. So when we sit here and bang our heads against the wall, they're doing the same thing in their city. So it's good to know that we all have the same issues to deal with. But it was very good, and I think it's a great idea that we meet up with them because everybody brings different ideas to the table that we can implement and make this a better place. Also, I put an email out to everybody for leadership meetings. Councilman Nell took advantage of it tonight and came up and sat in leadership. We made that decision after last week that we would invite anybody to come up. We'd like to do it one council member at a time, so just let Renee know if you're wanting to come up and be a part of that, and it's first come, first serve. That's all I've got for tonight. So the next meeting of the city council will be a work session to be held at 4:30 p.m. Tuesday, December 14th, 2021 in the council chambers, and a regular council meeting to be held at 6 p.m. Tuesday, December 21st, 2021 in the council chambers. A notice of an executive session to take place at this date and during this meeting was given. We have a matter to discuss regarding land and litigation. Therefore, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session, and at the conclusion of that executive session, to reconvene this regular council meeting and may take further action on one or more of the executive session topics following the executive session. Moved by Councilman Nell, second by Councilwoman Engbretson. There being a majority of members present and a motion to adjourn into an executive session having been moved and seconded, that motion requiring a 2/3 majority of the council present. Please cast your votes. Please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
A greater than 2/3 majority of the council present vote in favor of the motion. We are hereby adjourned into an executive session.
By the way, Mr. Mayor, since Ray just sucked $10 out of me, I wanted to remind you guys, breakfast for the city employees, Thursday morning, 6 a.m., for those of you that can make it and help serve them.
Right back at you, Ray.